The press conference starts now. Minister Motegi, you have the floor.
I apologize. At my office, I washed my face and was about to leave and forgot to put on my mask, but I now have my facial mask on. I have 3 points to mention at the outset. First of all, the departure and return of Japanese nationals who are facing difficulty in returning back to Japan due to suspension of international flights. The number of those who departed and repatriated to Japan stands at 8,040. The number of those who are still wishing to depart and return back to Japan stands at approximately 640 in 40 countries. And of them, those in the final stage of coordination who are more or less aware of the date they will be returning is 450. So we highly appreciate the fact that operation has made progress, and especially today, commercial special flights will be operated by Saudi, and 120 people will be returning or departing from Saudi Arabia. And on the 30th of April, Biman Bangladesh Airlines will be operating a commercial chartered flight from Bangladesh to carry 150 people. And in Africa and in Latin America, many people were trying to find the means of returning back. But if we look at African countries, there are fewer than 10 or the lower of the single-digit number who are still remaining in those countries who are wishing to repatriate. MOFA will continue to capture the requirements of those who are in those countries and provide the utmost support to those who are in need.
The second point on border control measures on the 24th, which was the Friday last week. Ministry of Foreign Affairs raised a warning on infectious diseases to level 3. Having done that yesterday, the NSC, National Security Council, made a decision to deny landing from all these 14 countries. Furthermore, the NSC yesterday made a decision to keep in place suspension of visa validity, suspension of visa exemption measures, and suspension of visa exemption for APEC business travel card holders through the end of May. These measures originally were meant to be in place through the end of April. That decision was made.
The final and third point. This is with regards to the provision of Avigan. From the humanitarian perspective, the Japanese government has decided to provide for a total of $1 million in emergency grant aid to provide Avigan free of charge to requesting countries and to expand clinical research on COVID-19. So far, we have received requests from more than 70 countries through diplomatic channels, and already for 38 countries, coordination have been completed to provide Avigan free of charge within certain limitation or quota. According to UNOPS, the United Nations Office for Project Services, the procurement agency, delivery can begin after the end of the Golden Week holidays, beginning from countries whose procedures have been completed. So after the delivery has been implemented, we will announce the destination and the timing. Therapeutic development is very important to place COVID-19 under control, and therefore we will continue to inject efforts to promote public-private efforts and international cooperation for the development of therapeutics. That's all from me.
The time is now for questions. So after your names are called on, please proceed to the microphone and please state your name and affiliation before you ask your questions, please. Yamamoto-san, NHK. Yamamoto, NHK. the repatriation of Japanese nationals from countries where it is difficult for them to depart, as was mentioned at the outset, by country, by region. Saudi Arabia and Bangladesh you mentioned, but other than those countries, which are the countries where there are many Japanese nationals who wish to return?
So far, there aren't so many countries left. There aren't any countries where there are more than 100 Japanese nationals still remaining. Algeria, through 3 following operations, we will most likely be able to carry back certain people who are requesting to repatriate, who are affiliated to certain private sector companies. So I think we have a certain foresight in completion of operations. On the other hand, there could be Japanese nationals who will begin to request for repatriation who haven't yet so far. So a commercial airline may decide to operate a chartered flight, and if we obtain such information, we will offer information to Japanese nationals who are residing in those countries about such flights and ask them if they wish to go on board. Depending on the country, we have obtained such feedback from Japanese residents from certain countries in 2 or 3 phases, and we are willing to provide the utmost support to those countries. Next question, Mr. Azhari of Peri Orient News, please.
There seems to be escalation between China and the United States over COVID-19. Some American officials, including Vice President Pence, expressed skepticism over how reliable China's numbers are and how transparent it has been. It is with its data. China is with data on the disease. So does Japan trust Chinese official numbers on COVID-19, and do you think it's very good transparency adopted there? Thank you.
Well, with regards to the novel coronavirus, the announcements made by the government of China, as you pointed out, there are different views. Different people have different views, and I'm sure that China itself is aware of those divergent views. I would like to refrain from commenting on this myself, but having said that, the challenge that we all face is to arrest the spread of the novel coronavirus. And there, we believe, I believe, international cooperation and partnership is of the key. From that perspective, I myself have had, with Minister Wang Yi, the state councillor, had a phone conversation with him, and we had video teleconferencing with Chinese and Korean foreign ministers, and have stressed the importance of cooperation and partnership, including the sharing of transparent information, and we would like to continue close communications with them. Transparent and speedy sharing of information, that is critically important, and not only this is applicable not only to Japan, China, but we in the international community should be aware of this, the importance. G7 video teleconferencing. In addition, almost every day I have been in contact with foreign ministers of different countries, and I have been having conversations with over the phone. And transparent and speedy sharing of information, I've repeatedly said, is very important in order for us to overcome this threat of the virus. Next question. Mr. Sato. Sato, Asahi Shimbun. Since yesterday, Prime Minister Johnson of UK has made a comeback to his official duties. Any message to him? As far as the Japanese government is concerned, has the government sent any official message to him?
I will have to confirm whether the Japanese government has officially sent him a message. He was in the ICU for a certain period of time, and Prime Minister Johnson is now back to work, and in his office, I would like to extend my deepest congratulations. In the United Kingdom, the number of those who have been affected still stands at a very high number. And under Prime Minister Johnson's leadership, I hope that a nationwide effort can be made by all citizens of UK to prevent further spread of the outbreak. Next question, please. Yes, please. Ondosuka of Kyodo Press. My question is on Japan-U.S. trade agreement. In order to decide the field of the second stage, the original target was end of April by 2020. What are the prospects of being able to abide by this target date?
It's not about target setting. The joint statement last September, paragraph 3, between Japan and the United States, we talk about the intention. We say intend to. That's what the paragraph 3 says. Between Japan and the United States, in accordance with this Japan-U.S. Joint statement, which was issued in September last year, we are conducting consultations, and we are conducting these consultations, but the details of the consultations and the prospect due to the future negotiations, I would like to refrain from revealing it. In any case, I will not negotiate or agree against our national interest. A follow-up question, Kyodo Tsushin, Kyodo. So at the end of April, it is unlikely that there will be any output?
This month hasn't ended yet, so we are not in the stage of negotiation. We are still in the stage of consultations. Next question. Yes, Mr. Kato of Nikkei newspaper. Kato of Nihon Keizai Shimbun newspaper. I have a question on the general policy of the government on COVID-19. Yesterday, the deliberation for the supplementary budget has begun, but other countries are already implementing their supplementary budget. So there are criticism against the Japanese government that the response has been rather belated. What's your personal view? Do you think that the process so far has been too slow? And in implementing policies, what are some of the challenges that you feel are out there?
Well, this novel coronavirus outbreak and the spread, I suspect that the speed was much faster in Europe or in the United States, for example. We have seen a very rapid spread beyond anybody's imaginations. That has been the situation. To what extent can we implement a bold set of measures with a sense of speed? I mean, there are circumstances that each country faces. With regards to the Japanese response, you point out that there is a slowness. I would like to be humble in taking your comment, but it is what is important is implementation. So we need to pass the supplementary budget as quickly as possible so that the benefits will be delivered to each household, 100,000 yen benefit and so forth. All these support measures should support in both the households and businesses. We need to make sure that these support measures will be delivered as quickly as possible. And that, I believe, is very important. That is my thought. Having said that, my position as the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I would like to say that it is of paramount importance for me to protect the Japanese nationals and travelers abroad to secure their safety, to counter the novel coronavirus with the global outbreak and global spread. Against this backdrop, this is the most important responsibilities of mine. As you know, on the 28th of January, the first chartered flight from Wuhan, China. We have sent 5 chartered flights and 720 Japanese nationals. A total of 128 people have repatriated to Japan successfully. And those who were in Wuhan, Hubei province, all of them who wished to repatriate were successfully repatriated. And we were Japan was the fastest, faster than any other countries. As I said at the outset, developing countries, and in some countries, departures are not easy. And information has constantly been updated, but we have seen much progress in comparison to other countries. I do not believe these measures have been slow. We have been ahead of the curve to take these proactive measures. It is true that there are still people who remain, and until the very last Japanese national, we will make sure that he or she will be able to repatriate. Next question. Harui-san.
Minority news. I would like to talk about North Korean leadership issue. There are some reports suggesting that Kim Jong-un is in a serious health situation. What is Japan's position on that? And strategically speaking, is Japan's strategy on the future of its relations with North Korea is linked to who is in the leadership in Pyongyang and who is in the leading the country there, or it has different aspects? Thank you.
Previous time and the 2 times before, I responded to a similar question. In the normal course of business, we have been collecting information and analyzing information regarding North Korea with high level of interest. And we have been obtaining information from various intelligence sources. We are not in the stage of making any decisive comment, but the government's policy is to comprehensively resolve the outstanding issues, including abduction, nuclear and missile, based upon the Japan-North Korea Pyongyang Declaration, to settle the unfortunate past and aim for normalization of relationships, and this position remains unchanged. Next question, please. Oyabu of Yomiuri Newspaper. On Japan-Russia relationship, the Russian government decided to change the day of the end of World War II to September 3rd, the day of victory over Japan. And if the ceremony is to take place on September the 3rd, there was press reports that the Japanese government told that it would be difficult for Prime Minister Abe to participate. Is that true or not?
First of all, the ceremony on the 9th of May, it was postponed, and Russians want to hold the ceremony by the end of this year. I am aware of that. But the new date schedule for the ceremony, I don't think has been decided. Without the decision on the new date, coordination for the schedule will not happen, obviously, needless to say. Domestic politics in Russia and their foreign policy, we obviously have interests in them, but I would like to refrain from commenting on them one by one. But to resolve the attribution issue and conclude peace treaty remains the Japanese government's basic policy, and based on this basic policy, we will patiently continue to negotiate. This will not change. And this kind of the new coronavirus situation should settle. Otherwise, we will not be able to conduct negotiations face to face, candidly speaking, honestly speaking. Once the situation is ripe, with Minister Lavrov, I've had in-depth discussions with him already. Based on the in-depth discussions we have had in the past, we will certainly accelerate our negotiations. Any other questions, please? Oishi-san. TV Asahi, Oishi. At the outset, you talked about Avigan. To 38 countries, you said that the coordination has been completed. Approval of the therapeutic drugs are being expected. What is the significance of this?
Again, COVID-19 must be placed under control and resolved, and therapy is the key. Of course, prevention of contact is effective in preventing the spread of outbreak, but people have to be cured. And in the short run, therapeutic drugs, and in the mid to long run, vaccination development will be of critical importance. As far as Avigan is concerned, there are views that the Avigan may be effective against this disease, and we've also seen certain cases. Clinical research must be expanded in Japan and internationally, and as I said, from more than 70 countries, we have received requests, and for 38 countries, we've decided to provide Avigan. After we provide Avigan, then those countries will do clinical research, and they will be offering the clinical data they receive through their clinical research to Japan, and that should contribute to the acceleration of development of effective therapeutics. Thank you. Are there any other questions? Mr. Oyabu? Oyabu of Yomiuri newspaper. A follow-up question on Avigan, just for confirmation. The other day, Minister, when you announced the provision of Avigan, Indonesia, Ukraine, Iran were the countries that you had cited. But the 38 countries you are mentioning, if possible, can you mention a few important countries?
Maybe you should ask the question to my officials. Any other questions? No? If no other questions, this concludes the press conference for today. Thank you.